Okay. Okay, so this is it for my story. And now we would like to go to the second speaker, Mr. Malone. Mr. Malone, are you there? Tony, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, your turn.
Okay. My name is Tony Malone, and I live in the Chicago area, and it gets cold here in the winter. And I had an outdoor koi pond for the first 2 years of my doing the hobby back in 1999, and I had bad luck, lost most of my koi. Um, it wasn't a good experience. So I decided when I moved, I was going to move my koi inside, so I wouldn't have to worry about sub-zero weather. And you can see the picture. That's my pond now. The one I have currently, it's all indoors, all climate controlled. So I don't have to, and I feed all year long. I feed all year long. This pond is 20 by 30 feet and 8 feet deep, and it's got 40 koi in it. And to give you a little bit of history, I started out in the hobby back in 1999 and had koi that weren't very valuable. And so the food that I was using wasn't very valuable. I was using cheap food. I would go get Missouri koi food from, that's the one that Purina makes. I used another one called show koi because it was about $1 a pound. And I did not have Grand Champion in mind. I was just kind of looking at the koi and enjoying them. And then after I was doing this about 10 years, when this pond was about 8 years old, I think Taro was over at my house one time and said, "Why don't you try for Grand Champion?" And I decided, well, that's not a bad idea. And then he said, "But you can't use that crummy food, that cheap food. You can't use that." And no offense to Missouri, but koi foods can range from $1 a pound up to $10, $12 a pound. And so at that point, I changed my whole protocol around and started buying high quality koi food. And I tried Hikari, and I tried FD and JPD and whatever else was on the market, and finally settled on all Kodama koi food. Taro had something to do with that, I'm sure. But, and I started getting almost immediate results with growth and color and health of the fish. And it paid off. And Taro also told me at the time to start using koi clay. If you don't use koi clay, I highly recommend it. If it does cloud the water for a couple hours, but I put some in every single week. That's part of the nutrition that I do. So now I feed about 1 to 2 pounds of koi food a day to these 40 koi. Most of the average size is about 25 to 28 inches. I don't have an auto feeder. I'm the auto feeder. I feed every time I go by the pond when I'm home and not at work. I throw koi food in, and that seems to work well for me. I don't need an automatic koi feeder. I don't have to worry about the different types of food I use, whether for the water temperature, because the water temperature in my pond is always about 70. In the summer, it gets a little warmer. And right now, I feed a combination of high silk, all season, and color up, those 3 foods. And I use them in varying combinations with floating and sinking. The koi themselves would rather eat sinking food. I have 3 flat steps in the pond where I throw the sinking food, and they go for that first. As you can see in the picture, there's rings, and that's where there's floating rings that I made. Here they are. And the reason I have these is the floating food tends to get swept into the skimmers by the water bubbles and by the natural skimmer flow. And so these are made out of lawn edging. And I made them myself, and they work wonderful. And the koi get used to where the floating food is. But the shape of the koi's head is more attuned to picking up food off the bottom. And I didn't know that, Taro, that it was more nutritious and more and causes more and more growth. I use about 2 to 1 a measure of floating food to sinking food. In any kind, sometimes I'll get sinking high silk, floating high silk, but I do mix them all up all year round, all the time, because I don't have to worry about the temperatures. And the other thing I want to talk about, and I do feed mandofu when I can get it. I used to feed human food. A lot of people say you can feed watermelon and lettuce and oranges and all that kind of stuff. I've tried it all, including tofu. All it does is make the pond messy and gross. And so I don't feed. I used to even feed earthworms. In my first pond, I used to go out and collect earthworms after the rain. Let me tell you, koi love earthworms. They just love them. But I stopped doing it because you don't know what kind of bacteria or nonsense is in earthworms. But they do love earthworms. Another thing you might not know is I have 2 pugs, and if the pugs eat the koi food, it's good to give to the koi. I use them like canaries in a coal mine. But this method that I use with the 3 different kinds of food, occasional mandofu, and koi clay has resulted in 2 grand champions, one in 2015 and one in 2018. I have very few health problems, although everybody's got the occasional ulcer that happens in koi. I do use Koizyme also. And the koi don't get any human food at all now. Another question that I want to answer is, can you overfeed a koi? And in my experience, you cannot overfeed a koi. You can overfeed the pond, but you can't overfeed a koi. Like Taro said, they eat all the time because they don't have stomachs. And so I don't worry about overfeeding the koi. I worry about overfeeding the pond. When I work, I fast my koi. I don't feed them that day. And it's amazing. I come home in the evening and they haven't eaten for 24 hours. The water is crystal clear. So that you can get the water murky and diminish the clarity if you do overfeed the fish. So but I don't. I keep an eye on it, and that's what I do. So that's my and I feed every day. This is one of my koi. This is a koi on the left when it was I think Nisai, and it grew up to win grand champion and reserve grand champion. Excellent results. I have no reason to switch koi food. I mean, I buy it. I always have at least 100 pounds in where I store it. Right now, I've got about 250 pounds. Like I say, I use about 2 pounds a day with this fish load. And my koi just they know where to go for the food. And some people say that they can recognize the owner's footsteps through the floor, through the ground, and actually know when to go feed. And I can verify that seems to be true. This is a Maruto Sanke when it was Nisai on the left and not about maybe 14 inches. Now she's about 36 inches, and that this is the result of Kodama's koi food and the koi clay that I use every week. And this is a Murata Kawaku. You can see 2015, 16, and 2018. You can see the quality and the luster that fish has. It would not look that way if I was using cut rate koi food. You have to, and I figured, if you're spending that much money on a koi, why be cheap on the koi food? And that's what Taro told me a long time ago. So you do get what you pay for in koi food. The Kodama koi food and the high silk, I feed the high silk for size and girth, the color up obviously for the color, and the wheat germ is to me a staple food that the koi can just survive on. So I've had excellent results with my method of feeding. I'm not a koi nutritionist or a veterinarian, but I just see results. And if it's not busted, don't fix it. And that's what I use, and that's what I do. And I'm very, very satisfied with the results that I've got. So That's about all I have. That's the way I feed. It's not scientific. It's not automatic. It's just based on results. And I've gotten really, really good results, and my fish are doing really well. So thanks for having me on, Taro.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences. And I'm sure it's not your method may not be for everyone, but I'm pretty sure that everyone has something to learn from you.